Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. So, I'm just checking in with you at the beginning of week 2 of your course. So, I hope you guys had a great weekend. So, a couple of things. First, I posted your grades from your introduction discussion post as well as your interpreting sources quiz. So, make sure you take a look at that and look at any feedback I provided. And let me know if you have any questions or concerns, because it is important that you understand how to interpret sources throughout this course. So I want to make sure you understand it uh, before moving forward. And with respect to the interpreting sources quiz, I want to mention a couple of the questions that some of you got confused by. The first one is question 2. The question 2 source was a map. It was a map that was in color that had legends, or a legend rather. And some of you got confused on whether that was a primary or a secondary source. Technically, it's a secondary source, primarily because it is a source that uses information from a different source. So, in other words, what happens when people make congressional maps? They pull data from the congressional records. So, they're basically manipulating that data however they choose to do that, or interpreting that data however they choose to do that. So, technically, that's what really makes it a secondary source. But I think some of you got confused on the time period because it was in the 90s. So, I went ahead and gave you credit for whatever you wrote with respect to whether it was a primary or a secondary source. Now, bias is a different matter. That was pretty clear that it was a political bias. But on the first part of that question, I gave everybody credit for that. So it's a little bit confusing to some of you. Question 4, it was the poster during World War II. That is a primary source. It was during the time period. Some of you got a little bit confused on that as well. But it was illustrated and distributed during World War II, which was the time period of Japanese internment. So make sure that you are looking at the source itself and not, the page around it. Just because the source is on a web page doesn't mean that it makes it primary, secondary, or creates any type of bias. That's just the way that the source is displayed. The original sources are generally in like national archives or in an archival collection or in a museum or something to that matter. You're not usually going to look at the physical source. So it doesn't matter whether it's a physical source or not. Take a look at what's in the source and in the characteristics that I provided you in the introductory lecture regarding interpreting sources. Okay, so that was week 1. Moving forward into week 2, you're going to be studying Reconstruction. Make sure that you are reviewing all of the course materials, including any films or course links that I provide. I think this one has a film, so make sure that you view the film as I instructed. You will be responsible for the information in the film as well as the lecture and any course material I provide. That is fair game for any future quizzes or exams. So, also with respect to the source analysis, you will start submitting well, at least you will submit your first source analysis this week. I have provided the instructions under the tutorials and templates module. So there is an instruction video as well as an infographic, a source analysis example, as well as the template. So make sure you take a look at that because you will need to submit the source template in your assignment. And then finally, with respect to how to take notes from the lecture, take a look at the objectives both in the lecture and on the beginning module page. And when I say, for example, that you will be able to describe or understand why Reconstruction failed, make sure you can go back and do that after you've reviewed all the materials.